How's it going, everybody? It's Meister Patrick here, and we're back with some more Gravity Rush for the PlayStation 4. This is actually Gravity Rush Remastered. Today, we'll be collecting all these gems. So, this episode will be another one of those boring me collecting gems while I talk at you sort of episodes. So, feel free to skip if you'd like. Um, but one thing I wanted to experiment with in this episode, since this whole series is kind of a bit of an experiment, is I'm going to try and pitch shift my voice to make it sound um, like a girl's more. That's just something I wanted to figure out if it's possible to do, how that sounds, and if it doesn't work out, then you probably won't even know that I was planning on doing it. So, if it does work out, then it'll change.
Now, keep in mind, this entire episode I'll be talking like normal from my perspective, but from your perspective, it might sound like I'm not talking normal. I hope that made sense. Alright, let's collect some gems. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I can't believe... So, I don't know, I'm sure what to talk about at this point. I don't know what I normally did during these. It's been so long since I've had to do just like a gem collecting episode like this. I usually talked about the world of Gravity Rush and some of the deeper hidden lores and stuff like that, I think. Or I just talked about the channel or what I was doing outside of Gravity Rush. So, it's weird to now talk about what I talk about. What am I looking for? There's gems everywhere, my goodness. I think I've said it before, but from my perspective, it's been quite a while. I really, really like this part about Gravity Rush. It's just kind of a fun game to get in and fly around, and although these are a little annoying to always have to backtrack like that. But it's kind of, I feel like the fun part about Gravity Rush, if you're, playing it yourself, being able to just fly around like this and sort of look at the world in, it's really nice looking. I really like the art design, especially down here in Bodome, or Botome, or however this should be pronounced. Look at all these gems, my goodness. They really give you a greedy money vision.
But yeah, I like the aesthetic of I guess they're going for like a flower sort of thing, but it's like a weird, like tree growth sort of look. It looks really nice. Oh, don't know what I hit there. Well, I guess there was a tree here. So if anyone didn't pick up what's going on, I can just give a quick summary. I don't know how much of this is actually covered in the game and how much is covered in the next game and the DLC, downloadable content for the next game, and all that sort of stuff. So down here in Bodome, I think I've already talked about it before, but right there, this big black thing is the storm, I think they call it. And the storm is constantly rising. I want to say at some point we're told how much it's rising, but I don't know where that is or if we've come across that yet. But it's rising very slowly. It's just like, we're talking inches a day or inches a week or something like that, which can be scary for sure. But another thing to consider is the whole time factor. So I think I've talked about before that I think that it's kind of like a black hole of sorts. So time is distorted in that it moves slower the closer you are to the black hole. So down here, time moves a lot slower than it would towards the top of the world pillar, which is being sort of consumed by the black hole. I don't actually know. I believe we're underneath the world pillar right now, so I can't actually point to the world pillar like I normally would, because I believe the world pillar is directly above us. One thing this game does interestingly is its use of colors. A lot of the worlds, or the, what do you call them? The maps, the cities, not cities, there's only one city, Hexville. Or this is another city, actually the second city we see in the game, besides Hexville. But the districts of Hexville are all sort of have a unique color associated with them. So you start in not Vendicenter. You start in Odd Noir, and Odd Noir is very green. Actually, Vendicenter is pretty green as well. And then you move to Plajorn, which is a very like purpley black sort of color. And then you move to Endestria, which is I think also I want to say it's also green. Well, it's because like the the sky color is just kind of green. I don't know where I was going with it. Anyway, down here it's like red. That's the point I was making. Is it kind of makes it that distinguishment of, even though this game is really simplified because of its PlayStation Vita or PlayStation Portable graphics. I like that this place still has its own unique. But do you see the lines there? I don't know if I can point this out well, or if you need a better screen even to see it. But there's like lines defining the gradient of the shadows. I think it's funny when I don't know what causes that. I imagine people who are more into game development would be able to tell you a bit more about why that is or why that exists. But I have noticed that in a lot of games, and I think it's always fun to point out when I see it. But yeah, this is kind of the game's really limited in its design, just because it was designed for the portable systems. And I believe the people who remastered this game are the same people who remastered Shadow of the Colossus, if anyone's familiar with that series. Less so that series and more so that game, and it's multiple remasters. The most recent remaster, where they got rid of all the fog and stuff like that, was remastered by, I believe, Blue Point as well, which is the people who remastered this game. But I feel like for this game, there was a lot of things that I don't know if they like rebuilt it from the ground up the way they did that game. They might have, in which they did. And if they did, then that's impressive of them. But if not, just the HD textures and stuff like that, I feel really do come out. But there's some parts about this game that can't be fixed, like the limited color palette that was chosen. I don't know if I've talked about the. I feel like comparing this game to Gravity Rush 2, the colors in Gravity Rush 2 were so much nicer that I would always, prefer or say that game is definitely better in the colors department. But something this game does that you could say is a plus for what this game wanted to be. Even though the colors it's kind of unfortunate that everything's a really drab color. It does work better with the story, I feel, of the game. So they went for a sort of a very mysterious feel, I think, is what they wanted out of the game. And I think they got that in the use of wow, there's so many gems, my goodness. They got that in their use of colors. So when you first wake up in a world that's all green. The sky's green, right? And so you as the player feel immediately estranged from your surroundings. You feel like you don't belong there. And that's, I think, the point. I think that's why they chose those colors, is because Kat, when she first wakes up, doesn't belong there. And so you feel a connection to the character inherent in that design choice. I don't know if I've talked about this before or not, but there's other games that have done this and they do this well. Like famously, I know that the Metal Gear series, in Metal Gear Solid 2, I want to say, you play as Raiden. Whoop! I don't know what just happened. Okay. Closing that again. You play as Raiden for a lot of Metal Gear Solid 2, despite you want to play as Snake. But Raiden, the whole point of his character is that he wants to be Snake. So you and the character have this inherent connection to one another. And also, spoiler alerts here for Metal Gear Solid 5. So skip ahead if you are unfamiliar with that game, or you want to be familiar with it at some point and you don't want me to spoil it for you. In that game, you play as Venom Snake, which is just kind of a random guy. Turns out you're playing as, I think, the medic or something like that. And he was just given plastic surgery to look like Snake, and he's sort of pretending to be Snake. And while you play the video game, you think that you're playing as Snake the entire time. The same way that Venom Snake thinks that he's being Snake the entire time. So you're playing this game, you're trying to think, what would Snake do, and how can I be Snake? And, it's like, that's what you want. You want to be Snake the entire time you're playing the game. And then it turns out that so does the character that you're playing as. He thinks that he's Snake, and he wants to be Snake, in that same way that you do. You're like, so yeah, trying to play it the most Snake way you can, and he is acting the most Snake way he can. So it's kind of cool in that way. So I feel like Gravity Rush does another similar thing to that, is what I'm saying, where you play as Snack, you play as Kat, who wakes up in this world where she is, my goodness, my controller is not inputting correctly. She wakes up in this world where she is doesn't have any memories. All of her memories are gone, and she's a stranger. Everyone's a stranger. she doesn't know anyone, no one likes her. It's this but she tries to stay optimistic and she tries to have a good time, and she tries to be helpful to people and all that. And I think that you as a player feel the same way, right? You try to do everything. Everyone tells you to do something, you just kind of go and you do it. And that's kind of who Kat is. And that's just how video games work, right? Is if you're given an objective, you go and you complete that objective, kind of independent of whether or not you're going to get a reward. That's just the way the video games work. It's like, oh, that's the main mission. I'm doing it because it's what the game's about. And that's sort of the way that Kat is. She just does things because she just feels like that's what she should be doing. And so the fact that you wake up in this world and everything seems strange and unusual, and the colors and the architecture is very Gothic, Eastern European style architecture. And, everyone's kind of like mean to you, and it's just like you feel very out of place in this world, and you don't know what anything is or where anything is, and neither does Kat, and she feels the same way you do, and you have this inherent connection to the main character in that way. So I think that is something that, so like I said, even though that the colors and the art style feel very drab and dreary and dull, I think it plays to the game's strength in a way that the game is like that, because I think that's what the game wants you to feel, because that's how Kat feels. And then Gravity Rush 2, she's had more time she has more memories, she has more friends, and it's sort of a, she has a bit more experience under her belt, and so that game is able to come out more with the colors and show off what the developers could do as far as colors go. If you aren't familiar with Gravity Rush 2, it looks incredible. It is probably the best game I've seen graphically ever. Although I'm sure it'll be beaten at someday. But it's one of those things that there's a lot of games that are praised for their visuals, and Gravity Rush 2 might not be the most graphically impressive. It's just it has the same sort of pros, going for its art style that like Wind Waker or Mario Odyssey does, where it's these very bright primary colors. And I think it does it even better than Mario Odyssey or Wind Waker do. It's also cell shaded. This game is technically cell shaded, if you weren't aware. It's a two-tone cell shading, which means that there are 3 different layers of shadows. There's the deep shadow, the mid shadow, and the light. And if you're not familiar with cell shading, well, I would, I guess, use the time to explain it. But I think we've already found all the gems. So, just kidding. There's more gems right here. But I think we're pretty much out of gems. So I think that's it for this episode. Maybe we'll talk about cell shading next time I have to go gem collecting, which I think I still have to do in Venda Center, and all those other places I went to before actually now have tons of gems. So that was the secret behind the power that I was just given from Ciania, is now I can see gems in places I couldn't see them before. So there's gems everywhere. And I don't think I'll make videos for getting the gems in cities we've already gone over, but I'll probably at least do Venda Center since we skipped Venda Center last time. So next episode, I'll go ahead and get this main mission started, and I'll make sure to read those mission names, because I always forget. And I feel like it's important. And I don't think there's any conversations, right? Nope, no conversations, no side missions, no side objectives. So it's just this main mission next time. So this episode was a little bit shorter. But, I think with this type of episode, and especially what I'm trying to do with this episode, it might be a better idea to keep it on the short side. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys around next time on Zoink Meister. Zoink. Out.